I want to speak to you right now about something that grips too many souls like a vice, and yet remains so strangely elusive for most: discipline. Mankind drifts where he is undisciplined. At the heart of every defeat, every failed dream, every soul that lies dormant knows this truth: money follows your discipline. Picture a man, a young disciple, a believer, maybe just someone trying to make a mark in this world, who awakens not just to the dawn of day, but to the dawn of his own destiny, and yet, every morning he negotiates with his weakness. He bargains with his sloth. I'll give in today, he says, but tomorrow will be different. And tomorrow is no different. This is a tragedy. This is a pattern. This is the place where many of us perish, not for lack of opportunity, not for want of ability, but because we would not pay the price of disciplined obedience. Discipline, let me tell you, when you follow discipline, money finds you. Not because money is God, not because wealth is the point, but because discipline is the fingerprint of the disciplined soul. Hear me when I say, the financial blessing is not the ultimate aim. It is the byproduct of a life trained, sacrificed, refined, put under the furnace of consistency. The money follows not because you worship it, but because your life has surrendered to higher things. Cursed is the man who chases money. Blessed is the man who chases obedience. Let me say it again, darker and bolder. Cursed is the man whose motive is dollars. Because the dollar is a fickle god. It comforts one day, abandons the next. But discipline carries you through famine and the feast. Discipline stands when storms howl and when markets crash. Discipline stays, and in its wake comes provision. What does discipline look like? If you would walk down this path, you will pay attention to everything: your time, your thoughts, your habits, your speech. You will measure that which is trivial, because the trivial can grow into tyranny. A slip today in integrity, a compromise tomorrow in stewardship. Before long, the penny lost will become the fortune wasted. Money follows your discipline, not because money is holy, but because discipline is. Discipline is the humbling teacher that says, you are not your own. You belong to one higher, one stronger. And once your allegiance shifts upward, from self-indulgence to obedience, your hands are freed. Free to receive, to steward, to advance the kingdom in measure, in generosity, in clarity. Let me get blunt. Do you know what the world calls success? What the world applauds? A man who rises to the top in worldly terms. But what is the standard by which you are living? Are you willing to be humbled in your bank account, so that one day, by God's grace, He can raise you up unto greater good? Are you willing to learn restraint, giving, saving, but more so waiting? Waiting on the Lord's timing, for discipline holds no haste. It works slow, steady, relentless. And in this slow work, if you wait and follow and obey, money will follow, but never before. Do not chase the ends before the means. Do not demand the fruit before the root is planted, watered, and pruned. A man who irrigates his field and weeds it, who sows in quiet hope, who honors transparency in his accounts, who gives cheerfully and lives simply, such a man can expect that provision will arrive. And when it does not because he crafted it, not because he maneuvered it, it will arrive because he feared the Lord more than his own comfort. That fear births discipline, and discipline births faithful discipline, and faithful discipline births provision. I plead with you, do not despise small things. Do not despise small savings. Do not despise small acts of mercy. Do not despise small moments of self-control. A man who will not choose frugality, who cannot restrain his tongue or his tongue's expenses, who cannot delay gratification, how then will he handle abundance? He will be exposed, undone, and enslaved again. Therefore, discipline must come now. Discipline must begin today. What am I calling you to do? Some of you must quit cheap entertainment, insane subscriptions, reckless spending you cannot afford. I am calling you to confess it. First to God, then to a brother. Ask him to hold you accountable. Write down where every penny is going for a month. Watch it leak from your grasp. Then seal those cracks with discipline. You will refuse late night impulse buys. You will practice contentment. You will celebrate simplicity. You will say no to envy. You will say yes to honest labor. You will guard your soul against the love of money. You will pray for deliverance from covetousness. You will cultivate peace with enough. Because, hear me, if your heart is wretchedly rich in your wants, you will never be free to steward what comes. And no matter how much money pours in, you will remain impoverished in spirit. But if you discipline your desires, refine your traditions, character guard your conscience, your money will follow. You will learn to say, I have enough. You will learn to serve without chaining hearts to stuff. You will learn that generosity is not born in prosperity, but in discipline. That's the secret. Let me speak of professionals, pastors, students, workers in the field. You might be earning a wage right now, but are you disciplined in your account? The paycheck arrives, and most of it evaporates into convenience, entertainment, thrones of comfort. Few pennies saved, fewer prayers offered, and before long, you are living paycheck to paycheck, not because external forces starved you, but because you starved yourself of discipline. Discipline would have borne savings, planning, peace, future, and then, suddenly, as a result, money appeared, a baby saved here, a budget trimmed there, a generous gift withheld in selfless timing. Money followed. And what of you who have nothing? You think you cannot speak of discipline because your pockets are bare. Let me tell you something that stretches across all states of wealth. Discipline does not require wealth to begin. It requires the sanctified willingness to obey. You may start with 0 savings, 0 reserves, 0 margin. But if you discipline your heart to obey, to serve, to work, to plan, then as you walk forward, God will ordain opportunities. More income, more provision, money will follow, not because you are lucky, but because you are disciplined. Discipline says, I will honor the vow of work. I will honor the vow of sparing. I will honor the vow of generosity, trusting that God will back it. Yes, this message is harsh. It is meant to be because the stakes are eternal. Discipline is not a soft sermon for comfortable ears. It is a hammer, a carpenter's hammer breaking apart our idols, idols of ease, idols of wants, idols of entitlement. Every late night convenience order, every swipe on a shiny new purchase, every thought that money solves something deeper within you, this hammer shatters it with pain, but only after it's shattered do we discover true freedom. Only then do we cry, I have enough. Only then does money come in proportion to stewardship, in proportion to fracture. From that moment on, every time the resources appear, expected blessing, miracle, promotion, do you know the difference between you and the world? You're rooted in discipline. You're not chasing fast schemes. You're not dreaming of quick fixes. You're trained in faithfulness. You've been faithful with little, so that when much comes, you'll be faithful with much. And in that moment, why, our discipline has delivered both provision and maturity. Because money follows discipline, but it enriches only those whose hearts are refined already. Discipline readies you for blessing, and blessing refines you further. I want you to look inward today. What is the one place in your life where discipline has fled? Maybe it's your mornings, maybe it's your nights, maybe it's your spending, maybe it's your vows to pray, to read, to steward your work. Whatever it is, discipline fled, and money has not followed you there. Get up, start the habit, Obey one thing, write it down, share it. Do not despise your day of small beginnings, for discipline crumbles giants. Discipline builds lasting legacies. Discipline is not glamorous. It is bloody sometimes. It is painful always. But its fruit, it will bear fruit, peace, provision, sanctity, testimony. Let us not kid ourselves. This is war, war on the self, on the slothful heart, on the insatiable flesh. The battlefield may seem boring, budgeting, fasting from luxury, saying no to ease. But the prize is powerful. The prize is a soul free enough to obey, free enough to serve, free enough to breathe generous exhalations in a world of grasping arms. A soul that says, I will not worship comfort. I will not let my desires rule. That soul, disciplined, will be fed. And as you walk that path, do not chase the checks, chase the call, chase the character. You've heard it whispered obscurely. When character comes, competence and compensation will follow. But we do not say it boldly enough. When discipline, holy, daily, relentless, comes, money will follow, not in endless streams perhaps, but enough so that you can give, enough so that you can live simply, enough so that your joy is measured in obedience, not numbers on a screen. Enough so that you recognize the Lord's hand and say, not boastfully, money followed. I did not run after it. I ran after the cross. I ran after faithfulness. So hear me, the standard is higher than wealth. But the promise is more beautiful than we often remember. A disciplined life is a life with integrity, with peace, with legacy. You may not even reach 400 words. I'm not even counting them, but I'm pleading with your heart. Discipline toward godliness, discipline toward stewardship, discipline toward purity, discipline toward generosity. Let that discipline rise in you. And then watch, not because you are greedy, but because the world is bigger than you and God is kind. Money follows your discipline. Let that prophecy hold you. Start today. Money is not something to be chased. It is a result of disciplined living. True provision flows from a life governed by self-control, stewardship, and obedience. Discipline shapes the character, aligns priorities, and makes room for financial blessing, not as a reward for greed, but as a consequence of faithfulness. When you pursue wealth without discipline, you fall into traps of entitlement, waste, and spiritual poverty. But when you pursue a disciplined, obedient life, training desires, honoring work, managing resources, money follows as a tool for generosity, peace, and legacy, not as a master. We live in an age that is constantly rushing, constantly consuming, constantly demanding that it be fed more and more, whether in pleasure, in convenience, or in material gain. And yet, in all this chasing, we find ourselves strangely empty, perpetually lacking. The soul groans not because it has too little, but because it has no structure. The foundation has crumbled, and no house stands firm without a foundation. That foundation is discipline. Discipline is not an option for the believer or for the man who desires to live uprightly. It is not a luxury reserved for the few. Discipline is a command, a call to arms, a crucifixion of the flesh. And without it, provision is nothing more than a fleeting shadow. Some may inherit wealth or stumble into comfort, but without discipline, it evaporates. It slips through fingers that were never trained to hold anything lasting. You cannot build provision on chaos. You cannot multiply what is mismanaged, and you will not be entrusted with more if you squander what little you now possess. The Lord does not pour into broken vessels that leak from every side. He fills what has been formed, what has been shaped, what has been strengthened through trial and submission. He does not bless laziness. He refines his people through process. Many are crying out for financial breakthrough, for stability, for abundance. But they will not wake up early. They will not work diligently. They will not plan or budget or sacrifice. They will not say no to a pleasure so that they can say yes to a future. And then they wonder why they reap barrenness. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. What a man sows, that he shall also reap. If you sow inconsistency, you will not reap security. If you sow indulgence, you will not reap peace. Discipline begins where desire ends. It picks up where your feelings stop, because the flesh will always demand comfort. It will always cry out for rest before the work is done. But the man of discipline hears that cry and refuses it. He crucifies it. He does not consult his emotions when there is work to do. He does not ask his feelings if it is time to rise. He is governed by principle, by resolve, by vision. That kind of man becomes a vessel into which God can pour provision, not because he earned it by might, but because he became faithful through trial. You must learn to say no to yourself. That is the beginning of discipline. When your desires run wild and you yield to them day after day, you are not living. You are being led, dragged around by your own appetites, and those appetites will never satisfy. They will consume you, drain you, and leave you dry. But discipline trains the soul to feast on something greater. It teaches you to hunger for righteousness, to crave integrity, to thirst for obedience. These things do not come naturally. They are formed in the fire of self-denial. Think of the farmer. He does not wake up each day and wonder if he feels like plowing the field. He knows the harvest depends on it. So he works when it is cold, when it is hot, when he is tired. He works in hope, in obedience, in rhythm. And in due season the harvest comes, not because he manipulated it, but because he submitted to the process. Provision follows that kind of man. God honors that kind of labor, not perfect, but consistent, humble, and disciplined. Discipline is not dramatic. It is not impressive in the short term. It is often invisible. It happens in silence, in the unseen hours, in the decisions no one praises. It is forged when you turn off the screen and pick up the book. When you resist the purchase and choose to save. When you show up on time again and again, not for applause, but because it is right. And as these small acts accumulate, they build a life, and provision follows, not in bursts, but in streams, not in showy abundance, but in steady sufficiency. You must stop asking for more if you are not faithful with what you have. You must stop demanding increase when you cannot handle discipline. Some of you are not poor because of circumstance. You are poor because of habit. Your poverty is not external, it is inward. You have not trained yourself in righteousness. You have not ordered your steps. You have not lived by principle. And so whatever you are given, you consume it, waste it, lose it. God, in his mercy, withholds what you cannot yet steward. That's not punishment. That's grace. He waits to bless until your character is ready, but the impatient heart despises this. It wants to skip the steps. It wants the crown without the cross. It wants the prize without the process. And in doing so, it sabotages itself, because what comes too quickly often departs just as fast. The unprepared man cannot bear the weight of blessing. It crushes him. Discipline is painful. It wounds your pride. It confronts your laziness. It exposes your excuses. But that pain is not to destroy you. It is to cleanse you. The hand of God disciplines those he loves, not to punish, but to prepare. Every time you deny yourself, You are carving out space in your soul for something greater. Every time you choose obedience over indulgence, you are strengthening the muscles that will carry responsibility. And discipline touches every area of life, not just your work ethic, not just your finances, but your time, your relationships, your words, your thoughts. A disciplined man watches his steps. He guards his eyes. He does not speak hastily. He does not waste his days. He knows the value of what he has been given, and he fears the Lord enough to steward it. That kind of man will be entrusted with more, not because he is better, but because he is faithful. There is a cost to discipline, but there is a far greater cost to the lack of it. Look around. How many lives lie in ruins because no one told them that structure matters? How many marriages fall apart because the foundation was never laid? How many ministries crumble, not because of scandal, but because of sloppiness? How many men wander in circles for decades, crying out for breakthrough, when all along the answer was a disciplined life? You do not need a new miracle. You need to obey what you already know. You need to start where you are. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for inspiration. Get up and do what is right. Do it again tomorrow. Do it when it is inconvenient. Do it when no one is watching. Do it when it costs you. And watch what God will do through a life that is surrendered, structured, and steadfast. Discipline is not legalism. It is not the attempt to earn favor. It is the fruit of grace. It is the response of a life that has been touched by the mercy of God. Grace does not excuse disorder. It empowers discipline. Grace does not tolerate chaos. It transforms it. If you truly understand the gospel, you will not live recklessly. You will live purposefully. You will order your days. You will take dominion over what you've been given. Some are waiting for the right season, the right circumstances, the right open door. But God is waiting for the right heart, a heart that has been disciplined in the secret place, a heart that is not swayed by every whim, a heart that will remain faithful with little. If he cannot trust you with the mundane, why would he trust you with the miraculous? Do not confuse busyness with discipline. Many people are running, sweating, striving, but without aim. They are scattered, distracted, overcommitted. Discipline brings focus. It simplifies. It clarifies. It teaches you to say no to what is good so you can say yes to what is best. It teaches you to prioritize what matters and eliminate what doesn't. And in that place of focus, provision flows because God blesses order, not chaos. It's time to examine your life, not your dreams, not your goals, but your actual habits. Where are you leaking? Where are you wasting? Where are you delaying obedience? Where are you feeding the flesh and starving your future? You may not like the answers, but if you will face them in truth, you will begin to build. You will begin to strengthen the foundation, and when the storms come, and they will, you will stand, because your house is not built on sand, but on the rock of a disciplined life. No one drifts into provision. It is walked into step by step, choice by choice, one morning at a time, $1 at a time, one act of faithfulness at a time, and there will be setbacks, there will be discouragement. But the man of discipline does not quit. He does not compare. He does not despise the process. He keeps walking. He keeps sowing. He keeps obeying, and in due time he will reap. This is the call, to die to yourself, to crucify your comfort, to live on purpose. This is the road few walk, but it is the road that leads to peace, and it is the road that provision walks behind. You do not chase money. You do not chase results. You chase obedience, and money follows. Peace follows. Impact follows, because discipline is the foundation that makes room for blessing. The man who builds his life on discipline builds a life that lasts. The world is intoxicated with wealth. It worships it. It chases it as if it were the very source of life itself. Billboards scream promises of happiness found in possessions. Social media parades the lives of those who seem to have it all. The glitter of gold dazzles eyes, and the hunger for more grows insatiable. But what does this chasing truly produce? It produces emptiness. It produces weariness. It produces a soul that is starved and dry, no matter how much it gathers. There is a great deception in this world, a lie that says if you just accumulate enough, if you just possess enough, if you just climb high enough, then you will be satisfied. That lie has destroyed millions. It has robbed countless souls of peace, and it is a lie that only obedience can expose and silence. Chasing wealth without obedience is like chasing the wind. You run, you grasp, you clutch, and yet the more you get, the more it slips through your fingers. Why? Because wealth itself is not a balm for the human heart. It is not the answer to the deepest questions. It is not the source of true joy. You can have millions and still feel utterly bankrupt. The soul cannot be filled with dollars or possessions. It can only be filled by God. The emptiness that comes from chasing wealth apart from obedience is the emptiness of those who have nothing of eternal value. It is the emptiness of the man who works all day to acquire things but never works on his soul. It is the emptiness of the woman who spends her life decorating her house but neglects her heart. It is the emptiness of a generation that runs toward more but finds only less. The scriptures say, "What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" This question echoes through the ages because it addresses the core of this tragedy. Many chase wealth, but in the chase they lose themselves. They lose peace, they lose integrity, they lose purpose. And for what? A few more possessions, a little more comfort, a fleeting moment of status. Obedience, on the other hand, leads to fruitfulness. It leads to a life that is full, rich, and eternal. Obedience is not the pursuit of self, but the surrender to God. It is the path of humility, the road less traveled by the crowd, but the one that leads to life. When a man obeys God, he aligns himself with the Creator's purpose. He trades empty promises for eternal riches. Obedience brings peace because it frees the soul from the tyranny of endless desire. It teaches contentment in all circumstances. The obedient man can say, "I have enough," and not because he is wealthy, but because his heart is at rest. He is no longer a slave to his wants. His joy is not measured by his bank account, but by his faithfulness. The fruitfulness that comes from obedience is not always material, but it is always real. It is the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are riches that cannot be stolen, that cannot be lost in a crash or recession. These are treasures laid up in heaven. But fruitfulness also bears material testimony. The man who walks in obedience is trustworthy. He manages what he is given wisely. He does not squander or hoard, but gives generously. He understands that provision is not an end, but a means, a tool to bless others and glorify God. Because obedience places the heart where it belongs, provision follows not as a god, but as a servant. There is a profound difference between the man who chases wealth and the man who chases obedience. The former runs frantically, driven by greed and anxiety. He looks to numbers on a screen to determine his worth. His identity is tied to his possessions. The latter walks steadily, driven by faith and purpose. He looks to the Word of God to determine his worth. His identity is rooted in Christ. The world applauds the man who has amassed wealth. It elevates him. It gives him status, but God looks on the heart. He sees the man who lives in submission to his will, even when it costs him. He honors the man who refuses to compromise, who chooses integrity over profit, who values obedience over ease. Chasing wealth is a fool's errand because it is always moving farther away. There is never enough. The richer a man gets, the more he wants. It is a hunger that cannot be satisfied because it is not a hunger for God, but a hunger for self. It is a gnawing void that only obedience can fill. Obedience fills the void because it places the soul in right relationship with its Creator. It heals the brokenness that drives the desire for more. It calms the restless heart. It roots the believer in a hope that does not disappoint. When you obey God, you acknowledge that He is your provider, and that changes everything. A man who obeys does not fear lack. He knows that God's provision is sufficient. He understands that his worth is not tied to his wealth. He lives free from anxiety because he trusts in a Father who cares for the sparrows and counts the hairs on his head. This trust produces a peace that the world cannot give or take away. There is a story of a man who sought after riches all his life. He gained much but lost his family, his health, and his soul. In his final days, he realized that all his chasing had been for nothing. But there is another story of a man who sought first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. He worked hard, obeyed God's commands, and trusted Him for provision. His life was marked by fruitfulness, both spiritual and material. He knew joy, peace, and contentment. He left a legacy that outlasted his years. The choice is clear. You can chase wealth and find emptiness, or you can chase obedience and find fruitfulness. But this choice is not easy. It requires dying to self. It requires surrendering your dreams, your ambitions, your comfort. It requires a daily crucifixion of your fleshly desires. Disobedience is the root of chaos. It leads to reckless living, poor stewardship, and spiritual poverty. Obedience is the root of order. It leads to wise living, faithful stewardship, and spiritual abundance. The man who obeys lives within the boundaries God sets. He finds freedom not in license, but in limits. He knows that those limits protect him, guide him, and prepare him for blessing. The pursuit of obedience means embracing hardship. It means choosing the narrow path. It means being misunderstood, rejected, and sometimes even mocked. But the fruit of obedience is worth the cost. It is the fruit of a life aligned with God's will, a life that produces lasting impact. The emptiness that follows chasing wealth is a warning. It is a sign that you have turned away from your true source. It is a call to repentance. You must turn your heart away from the love of money and toward the love of God. You must learn to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness. The fruitfulness that follows chasing obedience is a promise. It is an invitation to trust God with your whole heart. It is a call to live in the freedom of faith, knowing that He will supply all your needs according to His riches in glory. This is not about being wealthy or poor. It is about where your heart is set. It is about who you serve. Are you a slave to wealth or a servant of God? Are you building on sand or on the rock? The foundation of your life determines the outcome. You will find that the man who chases obedience has a strength that the world cannot take away. He has a hope that shines in the darkest valleys. He has a peace that guards his heart and mind. And even if he has little, he is rich in what matters. The man who chases wealth has no such security. He is vulnerable to loss, to fear, to despair. His treasure is earthly and perishable, and he is vulnerable to the storms of life. God's word tells us that it is better to have little with righteousness than great revenues without justice. It is better to have a little with peace than abundance with turmoil. These truths stand firm because God's ways are higher than ours. If you want fruitfulness, begin with obedience. If you want provision, start with submission. If you want peace, seek the kingdom first. Do not be deceived by the glitter that fools the eye and starves the soul. True wealth is found only in following the one who is rich in mercy. Chasing wealth will empty your heart. Chasing obedience will fill your life. Choose wisely. The road is narrow, but it leads to life. The broad path leads to destruction, and it is crowded with those chasing shadows. If you would be wise, learn to deny yourself. Learn to obey even when it costs. Learn to trust even when you cannot see the outcome. For in that obedience, God is glorified, and your life becomes fruitful beyond measure. You may lose friends, comfort, or ease along the way. You may be misunderstood or isolated, but you will gain something far greater, a life anchored in truth, a soul filled with joy, a legacy that endures. The pursuit of obedience requires daily sacrifice, but it offers eternal reward. It is the path of the faithful, the road of the saints, the journey of those who are truly rich. Do not waste your days chasing that which cannot satisfy. Chase after the one who can fill all your needs. Chase after obedience, and you will find fruitfulness.